Yeah, it was interesting too. The other day we were, I forget where we were conversing, but there's a video somewhere that has a lot of comments on the channel, where folks are talking about like, um, remember, because I was there and I remember that, like, on, this is before social media, but like on the forums, just people were so pissed off about Dragon Age 2. Like Dragon Age 2 was such a horrible game because it was different than Dragon Age 1. And then Dragon Age 2 came out and, people played it and a lot of their opinions changed. And then here we are a few years later, Dragon Age Inquisition came out. Dragon Age Inquisition became the game that was so hated because, oh, it's so different than Dragon Age Origins. And suddenly it was the evil stepson. And then it's the same thing. People are always upset about things that are different. It's also uh, it's also looking at like the company behind EVE Online, CCP, I think is their company. They have tried like 3 times to get a first-person shooter game set in the EVE Online universe off the ground, and they have failed each time they've tried to make it happen. And some people are like they should just stop trying and stick with what they're good at, which is EVE Online. They shouldn't waste their time and money on trying something new. And it's like, I fucking want them to try something new. People who stop trying new things, that's when complacency sets in, you've lost. Like, innovation is everything that we need in terms of books and video games and movies, and I want the industry to always be moving forward and always trying new things. Sometimes the new things aren't necessarily going to be as good as the first one in your mind, but it pushes things forward in lots of interesting ways, and that's the most important thing. If we were just complacent human beings, we wouldn't have light bulbs, we wouldn't have airplanes, we wouldn't have, because somewhere someone would have said, well, you know what, guys, oil lamps, that's as good as it's gonna get. I just love my oil lamps. They're so much better than candles. This is as good as it's gonna get, kids. And if we didn't have people pushing for the, introduction of light bulbs and electricity, we wouldn't have light, or internet, or, touch screen phones, or, I mean, it's like video games, I want my companies trying different things. Um, and it's okay for a company to have one thing they do really good, and they always kind of, like, Call of Duty is a good example. Call of Duty is always going to be Call of Duty, but within Call of Duty, they still change that formula every Call of Duty game, and they add new mechanics and they add new features and new ways of doing things. And you could look at a company like BioWare, who has consistently made party-based, story-based, combat-driven RPGs. They've just slightly changed the formula every time they've made a new game, and they've evolved as a company. George Lucas, when they did the first Star Wars, it was all physical props, and the Death Star was filmed on ping pong tables with a truck that ran alongside of it with a camera on a boom. And then we moved forward and we got blue screen technology for Empire Strikes Back. They were able to do those awesome, amazing asteroid sequences where the Millennium Falcon is being pursued through the asteroid field by TIE fighters and TIE bombers. And yet it still had hand puppets, like the big hand puppet that comes out and tries to eat the Millennium Falcon. Like, we blended physical with green screen, and then we moved into more green screen. And then we get into motion capture and what Weta Workshop did with um, um, Andy Serkis doing Gollum. Like, innovation is important for moving an industry forward. And companies doing new things and interesting things, that's why I play video games. Like, I don't want every game I play to be the exact same carbon copy of every other game. And I don't want the companies that I play games with, I don't want them to always make the same exact carbon copy game over and over and over. Can you imagine if the Space Quest series or the King's Quest series or the Quest for Glory series or any of those early point-and-click adventure games, if they had only been the same exact thing over and over and over? Instead, every game was an innovation over the last one, and it changed it just a little bit. And they added some more quests, and they added some more ways to do things. Looking at Dragon Age, they started off with one of the things that was complex at the time was they took the original, like, if you look back at like Baldur's Gate 1, and you had the party-based system, But you also had the AI for companions. That was refined for Dragon Age Origins. But then it was further refined down the line, and then we got rid of it. Why? Because it's not really needed anymore. Because now we have this, which is an evolution of that party-based AI. But instead of needing an AI to do things for me, the AI is automatically doing everything behind the scenes that I used to have to tell the AI to do, which is use your abilities, your basic combat abilities, like your auto attacks, everything else. But here we have a way of telling them all to attack a single mob or to use your abilities in a certain way to do combos. And that's just an evolution of. And some people will say, well, this is a step backwards. If you think that it's a step backwards, you don't understand the technology that's at play. Um, anyway, I think that innovation is great. That's why I don't want every game I play to be like Baldur's Gate 3. I don't want every game I play to be like Call of Duty. I don't want every MMO I play to be like World of Warcraft. I want games to do different things. Space Beagle says Dragon Age is a series that is telling one world story through the years, unlike Mass Effect's trilogy, which tells a story driven by one event. Many people fail to see this. It's true, yeah. Petite says this is humans doing art. Yes, art is always going to do things. And the other thing to think about too is like every game has a different director, and every director has a different artistic vision that they're trying to bring to the table. Um, that's we can see that in the original Star Wars trilogy as well. George Lucas directing the first one, then somebody else directing the second one, and then somebody else directing the third one, and each one is a quintessential Star Wars film, but each one has a distinctly different tone and style because other directors were able to put their mark on that, and as a result, you have a distinctly different feel for each one of those Star Wars films. And same thing with the Harry Potter series. You know, you had different directors directing different films in that franchise, and as a result, each film has its own kind of unique feel, even though it's at the core still about the story of Harry Potter and his friends. It's no different here. Dragon Age has always had different directors. The franchise has always evolved. Even the Mass Effect franchise evolved fairly significantly over the course of 3 games, even though its storyline was much more condensed. So personally, for me, I want innovation in my games. Um, I do not want my games to all be carbon copies of other games because that just leads to stagnation, and stagnation means the industry never moves forward. And that's my take on things. Welcome to my TED Talk. Thanks for listening.